If you're over 60, there's a type of fat inside your body right now that is doing far more damage than most people realize. It is not the fat you can see in the mirror or grab with your hands. It is the fat buried deep around your organs, quietly interfering with your heart, your blood sugar, your hormones, and even your brain. What makes this especially concerning is that many older adults are gaining this fat, even when their weight has barely changed. Doctors have known about this problem for years, but recent research has revealed something far more unsettling. This deep abdominal fat is biologically active, constantly releasing inflammatory compounds into your bloodstream that accelerate aging from the inside. That is why two people can weigh the same, eat similar foods, and yet one develops diabetes, heart disease, and fatigue while the other does not. Here is the part that surprises most people. After 60, your body does not respond to fat loss the same way it did in your 40s or 50s. Many of the strategies that once worked, eating less, moving more, cutting fat, now backfire or barely move the needle. That leads many seniors to believe their body is broken or that stubborn belly fat is simply part of getting older. But that assumption is wrong. In fact, research following thousands of adults in their 60s and 70s shows that this dangerous internal fat is often the first fat to shrink when the right signals are given. Age does not make this impossible. It changes the rules. And when you understand those rules, the body can respond faster than expected. What makes this type of fat so harmful is not just where it sits, but how it behaves. Unlike surface fat, it wraps itself around vital organs like the liver, pancreas, and intestines. It crowds them, disrupts their function, and sends constant stress signals throughout the body. This is why people can look only slightly overweight and still face serious metabolic problems. This internal fat thrives on stress hormones, poor sleep signals, irregular eating patterns, and low muscle stimulation. Unfortunately, most health advice aimed at seniors ignores these drivers completely. It focuses on calories, steps, or generic diet plans that never address what is actually feeding the problem. The good news is that this fat is not stubborn in the way most people think. It is highly sensitive to specific metabolic cues. When those cues are activated, the body preferentially taps into these deep fat stores because they are metabolically easier to access than the fat under your skin. That is why some older adults suddenly notice their waist shrinking without dramatic weight loss when they change just one or two key habits. Scientists studying this phenomenon were so surprised by the speed of these changes that they repeated measurements multiple times to rule out error. The scans kept showing the same thing. The internal fat was shrinking, even when the scale barely moved. This creates a powerful opportunity, but only if you stop chasing the wrong targets. Extreme dieting raises stress hormones that push more fat toward the abdomen. Long, exhausting workouts strain joints and increase inflammation, which again favors deep fat storage. Even many so-called healthy diets fail because they ignore timing, nervous system signals, and age-related shifts in hormone sensitivity. The body after 60 is not resistant. It is selective. When you give it the right instructions, it listens very closely. When you give it the wrong ones, it protects that visceral fat as if it were essential for survival. What you're about to learn is not a trendy diet or a promise of effortless weight loss. It is a set of evidence-based strategies designed specifically for older bodies. These approaches work with your biology instead of fighting it. They are practical, realistic, and focused on improving health first, not chasing a number on the scale. Some of these methods involve food, some involve timing, and one of the most powerful has nothing to do with eating or exercise at all. Yet it consistently outperforms both when it comes to reducing deep abdominal fat. Researchers did not expect that result, but the data was impossible to ignore. As we go forward, you will see why common advice fails, why this type of fat behaves differently after 60, and why small, targeted changes can produce outsized results. You will also understand why consistency matters more than intensity, and why calming certain stress signals in the body is just as important as what you put on your plate. None of this requires perfection. It requires understanding. And once you understand how this internal fat actually responds, the fear and frustration many seniors feel around belly fat begins to fade. As we continue, it is important to understand why this internal belly fat becomes more aggressive with age and why willpower alone cannot control it. After 60, the body goes through quiet biological shifts that most people are never warned about. Muscle tissue becomes harder to stimulate. Insulin stays elevated longer after meals, and stress hormones linger in the bloodstream instead of shutting off quickly. None of these changes mean your body is failing. They mean it is operating under a different priority system, one focused on preservation rather than performance. Visceral fat thrives in this environment because it acts like an emergency energy reserve. When the body senses instability, whether from skipped meals, poor sleep, emotional stress, or overexertion, it holds onto this fat even tighter. One of the biggest mistakes seniors make is unknowingly creating daily stress signals while trying to be healthy. Eating too little protein early in the day leaves the body in a catabolic state, encouraging muscle breakdown and fat storage. Grazing constantly keeps insulin elevated, which blocks access to deep fat stores. Late-night eating interferes with growth hormone release, a hormone that plays a major role in mobilizing visceral fat during sleep. On top of this, chronic low-grade stress keeps cortisol elevated, telling the body to store fat around the organs for protection. None of these factors feel dramatic on their own, but together they quietly push fat deeper into the abdomen year after year. Another overlooked issue is the loss of metabolic rhythm. Younger bodies can tolerate irregular schedules. Older bodies cannot. When meals, sleep, and activity happen at inconsistent times, the internal clock becomes confused. This disrupts how efficiently the body switches between burning sugar and burning fat. Visceral fat benefits from this confusion because it remains readily available as a backup fuel source. This is why two people can eat the same foods, yet only one accumulates belly fat. The difference is not discipline. It is timing, signaling, and nervous system balance. Gut health also plays a larger role than most people realize. As we age, the diversity of beneficial gut bacteria often declines. This shift affects how fiber is fermented, how inflammation is regulated, and how hunger hormones behave. Certain bacteria produce compounds that directly signal the body to burn fat, while others promote storage. When the balance shifts unfavorably, visceral fat becomes easier to accumulate even without excess calories. This explains why some seniors feel bloated, sluggish, or inflamed despite eating what they believe is a healthy diet. The food may be fine, but the internal environment is not optimized to process it properly. Sleep disruption compounds all of this. Light, fragmented sleep raises cortisol and reduces insulin sensitivity the following day. Even one poor night can increase hunger signals and slow fat burning. Over time, this creates a cycle where fatigue leads to poor food choices, which then worsens sleep quality. Visceral fat sits at the center of this loop, both contributing to inflammation and being reinforced by it. Breaking this cycle does not start with punishment or restriction. It starts with restoring calm signals that tell the body it is safe to let go of stored energy. There is also a psychological component that deserves attention. Many older adults carry decades of diet frustration and body disappointment. This mental strain alone can elevate stress hormones. When the nervous system stays in a guarded state, fat loss becomes difficult regardless of effort. This is why approaches that address breathing, relaxation, and nervous system regulation often produce physical changes that seem disproportionate to the effort involved. The body responds not just to food and movement, but to perceived safety. When safety signals increase, visceral fat becomes expendable. Understanding these mechanisms changes how you approach fat loss entirely. Instead of fighting your body, you begin working with it. Instead of focusing on extremes, you focus on consistency and alignment. The goal is not to force fat out, but to remove the signals that tell the body it must hold on. Once those signals are quieted, the body does what it is designed to do. It prioritizes health, protects muscle, and draws energy from the most harmful fat stores first. In the next part, we will move from understanding to application. You will see how these principles translate into simple daily routines that feel manageable and sustainable. These are not rigid rules, but flexible frameworks that respect your age, your energy, and your long-term health. When combined correctly, they create a powerful shift that many people notice not just in their waistline, but in their sleep, energy, and overall sense of well-being. Now it is time to bring everything together in a way that feels practical, calm, and realistic for daily life after 60. The goal here is not to overhaul your entire routine overnight, but to give your body clear, repeatable signals that it is safe, supported, and ready to release stored visceral fat. The most effective approach always starts with the nervous system. When stress levels come down, everything else begins to work better. That is why the first daily anchor should be a simple breathing practice done twice a day. Slow, controlled breathing through the nose, with the belly expanding instead of the chest, sends a direct message to the brain that danger has passed. Just 15 minutes in the morning and again in the late afternoon can lower cortisol, improve insulin sensitivity, and unlock fat-burning pathways that diet alone cannot reach. Many seniors are shocked at how quickly their body feels calmer when this becomes routine. Next comes meal timing, not restriction. The body responds best when eating happens within a consistent daily window. This does not mean skipping meals or feeling deprived. It means allowing the digestive system to fully rest overnight so fat-burning hormones can do their work. Finishing dinner a few hours before bed and keeping breakfast at a regular time trains your internal clock. Over time, hunger becomes more predictable, cravings settle down, and energy improves. This rhythm alone can reduce the internal chaos that keeps visceral fat protected. Protein then becomes the foundation of each meal, especially earlier in the day. After 60, muscle tissue needs a stronger signal to stay active. When muscle is stimulated and preserved, the body has less reason to cling to deep fat stores. Starting the day with a solid protein source stabilizes blood sugar and prevents the stress response that comes from underfueling. Lunch and dinner should follow the same pattern, with protein leading and vegetables and carbohydrates supporting, not dominating the plate. This does not require perfection. It requires intention. Fiber and gut support quietly amplify everything else. Soluble fiber slows digestion, feeds beneficial bacteria, and reduces inflammatory signals tied to visceral fat. When combined with naturally prebiotic foods, the gut environment begins to shift within weeks. Bloating often decreases, digestion feels smoother, and appetite regulation improves. These changes make consistency easier, which is far more important than chasing dramatic short-term results. Temperature and environment also matter more than most people realize. Mild exposure to cooler conditions tells the body to activate fat-burning tissue that declines with age. This does not mean discomfort or extremes. Small adjustments, like cooler indoor temperatures in the evening or finishing a shower with slightly cooler water, create subtle but meaningful metabolic signals. Over time, the body becomes more efficient at using stored fat for warmth and energy. Sleep then ties everything together. Protecting sleep quality protects fat loss. A consistent bedtime, reduced evening stimulation, and a calm pre-sleep routine allow growth hormone to rise naturally. This hormone plays a direct role in mobilizing visceral fat during the night. Even small improvements in sleep depth can translate into noticeable changes in waist size and morning energy. The most important mindset shift is this. Your body is not fighting you. It is responding to signals. When those signals change, the response changes. Progress may show up first as better sleep, steadier energy, or a looser waistband before the scale ever moves. That is normal and healthy. Trusting this process removes urgency and replaces it with confidence. Consistency beats intensity every time, especially after 60. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like it, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to the channel for more health content like this. Remember, your body is capable of meaningful change at any age when it receives the right signals. Stay patient, stay consistent, and allow your health to improve one calm day at a time.